DickDorsett. To paraphrase Lord Acton, power corrupts, PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I'd like to have a little fun today and talk about one of my pet peeves, which is the use of PowerPoint in presentations. Let me ask you all a question. Have you or someone you know fallen in love with presentation slides? Bulletized talking points, clever visual transitions, or pretty slides? PowerPoint, I'm sorry to say, makes us stupid. Some have compared it to a prescription drug with serious side effects, turning everyone into bores, wasting time, and degrading communication. Most would demand a product recall from such serious side effects, but not with slideware. It's more difficult to avoid than a winter cold. Now, it may surprise you to know that General McChrystal, when he was running things in Afghanistan, banned the use of PowerPoint. One slide that had been prepared by what they call his PowerPoint rangers was so complex that McChrystal said, he said, when we understand that slide, we will have won the war. Now, typical presentations elevate format over content and tend towards turning every presentation into a sales pitch. Now, sure, at the end of every PowerPoint presentation, there's a slide that says questions. But is this really how we want to communicate? My personal concern is that with the loss of beautiful, well-crafted sentences and how a good speech can rouse people's imaginations and passions and paint pictures in their minds, friends, it is very difficult to accomplish that with the best slide you will ever prepare. But we don't have to look so far as General McChrystal as an authority on presentations. Did your mom use PowerPoint when she had something important to say to you? I think not. It's more likely she said, look at me when I talk to you. Friends do not let friends use PowerPoint. I'd even say you have something of an obligation. The next time you see a friend sitting down to prepare a presentation, take his or her mouse away. You're not only saving the presenter, but the lives of everyone who has to listen to the speech. Because I truly believe that if you cannot stand up and explain something, then you don't understand it. And remember this, if you have nothing to say, PowerPoint will help you say it. But don't get me wrong, PowerPoint does have value. When the lights are dimmed at a conference, it's a perfect time to leave the room, or better yet, get some sleep without anybody knowing. Some pundits have suggested we send PowerPoint to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban to paralyze their operations. Now, did you know that 30 million PowerPoint presentations are inflicted on unsuspecting and largely undeserving Americans every day? It's estimated that 1 million presentations are being given as I stand here and speak. Trillions of slides are churned out each year, and churches, I'm told, have even gotten into the act, and I have it on good authority that orientations in hell using PowerPoint. But PowerPoint is more than digital Valium that can lead to brain death. It really can have serious consequences. Edward Tufte, the advocate of communicating complex data simply and clearly, has recently gone so far to argue that PowerPoint had contributed to the Space Shuttle Columbia disaster. It's a controversial argument, but the premise alone should get you thinking about whether this tool is creating disasters in your own presentations. So let me ask you another question. Think back to the best speech or presentation you can remember. Was PowerPoint used? Probably not. Probably not. And that's another clue for you to consider. One of the most riveting talks I ever heard about communications was by Michael Shadow, who's a well-known speech consultant. It came at the end of 4 hours of presentations about all the bells and whistles you can embed into a PowerPoint presentation. Michael, all he did, he walked out and he said, if you want to communicate with an audience, never, ever use PowerPoint. And And he went on to talk about how to communicate, but I was hooked from his opening comments. So are we stuck with communication being reduced to one slide after another? We don't have to be. It is true that we had dull and tedious speeches and presentations well before PowerPoint came along. Part of the value we gain here at Toastmasters is learning how to give more effective and entertaining speeches. As a rule, I don't think that should involve PowerPoint, but there are exceptions to every rule. Ask yourself, do you need slides? Is what you want to show absolutely dependent on the audience seeing something you cannot describe in words? Say like a photograph of your grandchild or a family vacation. Finally, if you're thinking of using slides, try this. Put each slide on trial for its life. Really. Ask it to defend itself and don't show any mercy. Make it beg, make it plead, make it sell itself. And if it doesn't convince you, just kill it. Now, I agree with the idea that PowerPoint's a lot like the printing press. Lots of really bad books have been published through the years, and I have seen actually some fantastic PowerPoint presentations. But I know that as Toastmasters, each of us can motivate, we can inspire and entertain our audiences with effective speech that relies most often on good stories, gestures, and well-presented talks. Radio, I believe, has always been a better medium precisely because the pictures are so much better than those on television. The same applies to presentations. Is PowerPoint bad, or as some have suggested, actually evil? Well, no. PowerPoint can be quite useful. Poorly prepared and boring talks are really what's bad. Of that, I'm certain. I'd like to say that good speeches are difficult to prepare and can be a challenge to present. But I am convinced, as each of us works on personal presence at a noteworthy occasion and using a compelling message with masterful delivery, none of us here will ever again resort to a slide to tell what our words can say so